Kvaratskhelia steadying himself! A star in the making. And there's the only goal! Sabini with it! After 11 years, once again, Milan are the champions of Italy.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie A Sitdown, World Football Index's podcast for your Calcio to go. I'm Frank Crivello. He's Richard Carmen. He's Alex Downo. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Okay, we've been better. I've been better.
I think we've all been better.
Yeah, you notice I'm repping the Azzurri today for as embarrassing as they've been for a while. I'm a little bit too embarrassed to rep Inter today. Obviously, if I were a Milan fan, I'd be embarrassed to rep Milan. Basically, it seems like only Napoli supporters and Laziali are happy today. Everyone else is miserable, including Juventini, because they're 15 points docked now. So it's a big pity party tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say Juventini. We can, we get we have the whole trifecta going. Roma fans are happy right now. Probably has to be said.
There's a lot of teams within shouting distance of second spot, so open.
And Alex doesn't even make it through orientation with us. He's already off as he's found his way in some wonderful ventures, and you're not going to be eligible for the wonderful benefit package you get at Serie A Sitdown or any of that other stuff. But just want to say congratulations for some of the new ventures that are going on in your career.
Well, thank you, sir. And if I could say a few words about that, I want to send out a huge thank you to Frank and Richard, and also a huge thank you to Jerry Mancini, who's my my original and lifelong Calcio partner, because I've found a way to have so many responsibilities right now covering American football and basketball that I'm going to have to take a step back from my Calcio coverage. And it's not because I've lost any love for it. On the contrary, I have so much love for it, but I've got less time to follow the league. And if I can't follow the league consistently the way that I liked, I feel like I'm cheating myself and cheating the audience if I go on and talk about it weekly, if I can't keep up with it the way that I would like to. So I am going to be taking a step back from Serie A Sitdown and Calcio Connection. But as I told the two guys who are on top of me here on the screen, if you ever need an Inter correspondent, because, it looks like we may be headed for a banter era, and hey, we may be able to relate to that because Milan may be heading in that direction as well. Feel free to lean on me, and I hope I could be a frequent contributor moving forward.
I thought you were going to say reach out to Anthony at Inter Worldwide or something.
Anthony's a good dude for that. And I'm sure he's as upset, probably even more upset about everything that's going on than I am right now, especially with Skriniar looking to be on his way out. It's kind of a depressing time to be an Interista.
That is for sure. A number of clubs right now really not enjoying themselves at the moment, as we've been talking about. We've got quite a bit to discuss here on this lovely Tuesday evening. I'm glad you're all joining us. We've got George with us. We've got Anthony with us. If you are tuning in, please check in with us in the chat. Any questions, anything, pop it in there. We'll try to answer it as much as we possibly can. So otherwise, just enjoy the three of us rambling about what has gone on here over the course of the last 6 days in match week 19, since Richard and I at least joined you last. So we will talk about that destruction of Milan in Rome at the hands of Lazio today. We'll talk about that thrilling match between Juventus and Atalanta. We'll wrap up the rest of match week 19. Some transfer talk, certain Nicolo Zaniolo, as he may be on his way to Milan, what that means for Milan. And of course, the biggest news, Juventus handed a 15-point penalty for capital gains violations, amongst other indiscretions, I guess we shall call it. And we'll wind it all up, or wrap it all up with the world's most popular hashtag game, Who Won Calcio? Twitter. Michael Lisi, I'm gonna sick.
He's so lost for words.
Like an adjective. It's not I'm gonna sick.
I'm gonna sick.
I'm gonna sick. That's what the kids are saying these days.
Unless you're gonna, yeah. Unless you sick the dogs on your children over what happened today.
I'd like to know where the Napoli fans are. Like, you'd think that more Napoli fans would be turning up in the chat, and the Lazio fans. I know that there's some Lazio fans who come in weekly. Because it seems like everybody in here are all the miserables like us.
Misery loves company.
They're too busy celebrating. They're celebrating their official winter championship. Although I'll warn, I don't think it's been a few years since the winter champion has gone on and won Serie A.
That's right.
But it's also a 12-point gap at the same time. I saw, but it is, I'll tell you what, as long as things are mathematically possible, I'm just going to say that. Just as long as things are mathematically possible. I actually saw somebody tweeting all of these managers talking about things being just saying mathematically possible in press conferences, and Louis van Gaal having the hardest time saying mathematically. You got a good kick out of that. We're gonna have to look that up and find that. I was going to try to figure out how I can parlay that into a tweet and have it relate to Italian football. Would have been pretty easy to do.
Certo.
There you go. Richard.
Yes.
You're doing today at the Olimpico, man. Let's talk about it.
Oh my God, we're talking about the kids cover your ears, the ass raping that happened in the Olimpico. Lazio hosting Milan.
That's not nice. We don't have to talk about it that way, do we?
We do, unfortunately, because a very impressive scoreline if you're a Laziale.
Lazio shoved it in dry. What are you talking about? I mean, that's what they did.
4-0. We got goals from Likovic-Savic in the 4th minute. Zaccagni in the 38th. First half, Milan do what they do best, give up goals early in the game. Nice piece of play, really, from Lazio to begin with, and SMS seems to score in these bigger games. Loves playing against Milan teams, really. Scored against Inter, obviously scoring against Milan here. Nice goal to open it up. The goal for Zaccagni really being fortunate in this one. Pedro with a fantastic pass kind of led what's his face, don't even care at the moment. He shot, gets off the post. Zaccagni there bounces off of him. He gets a consolation goal there, 2-0 going into halftime.
It was Marusic getting in behind Best on that play.
Yeah, I'm so pissed off. I don't even remember the guys' names anymore. But nice, Lazio, nice 2-0 lead at this point. I thought there was still a chance for Milan. I didn't watch the game live just because work and life happens. But at that point when I saw the scoreline, I said, well, Milan still should have a chance. Little did I know they were playing like crap at the time. It continued into the second half. Luis Alberto would convert a penalty, a stone cold penalty for sure, and then he converts it. And then Felipe Anderson finishes off a nice play by Lazio in the 75th minute. 4-0 in the 75th minute. Lazio really just completely dominant. Milan looked careless in the game. Frank, this no way to look around this. This was a poor game for Milan. And poor might be an overstatement by that, or understatement.
Yeah. Where do I start? I made a lot of comments over the course of the game, really just trying to look at Milan and break them down and analyze them. This 4-2-3-1 doesn't work anymore. And a lot of reasons, and Lacey's in the chat, a very valid one. You don't have Frank Kessie. Joe Baccalieri also said Frank Kessie is why you could play a 10 and play a 4-2-3-1. Having a player like that. You don't quite have that with Sandro Tonali and Ismail Bennacer. Here's what a 10 does for Milan now. It sometimes gets in the way of the striker, but I think worse, it is glaringly taking away any impact that Sandro Tonali can have on the game and taking charge of a midfield. That was one of the glaring things that I noticed. Very, very rarely could we find Tonali in this game finding advanced positions where he could get the ball and he could do some damage, and he can penetrate defenses with passing and create some things. He's restricted. And when Tonali got the ball, he got it oftentimes in front of the back four. He got it oftentimes in his own third, entering the middle third, and Lazio just pressed in on him and didn't give him any room to play. So I thought that the combination of pressing and Lazio's ability to keep the ball and combine, incredibly impressive. I argued. I said, why not go to a 4-3-2-1? Because here's the other detriment to this system. The wingers, especially the ones that Pioli picked for this game, do not give the fullbacks any support. Calabria and Dest were on islands by themselves, and they just got tortured the entire 90 minutes. I mean, it wasn't even fair what Lazio was doing to both of them. At least with a 3-man midfield in front of the back four, you got the left center and the right center midfielders that can pinch over and maybe try to plug some things up. I think somebody made I can't remember who said it. Let's give Astor Franks a try. And throw him in there with Tonali and with Benacer and see what happens. Now against Sassuolo, it's going to have to be Tonali and Pobega if you do it because Benacer is suspended. These are the things that I think that it's causing a problem, and you don't have the physicality and the combativeness of Kessie as part of that center midfield combination. So this formation doesn't work anymore. It's been figured out. It's time to try something different. It's time to get creative with what you have at your disposal, because it doesn't seem evident to me that that Maldini and co are going to do a lot to reinforce this squad now. Zaniolo might be coming. We'll see how that plays out, but I don't see anybody else coming through in this window. And then finally, I think this is I was a lot more patient with Tatarusanu than just about all of the rest of Milan's fan base, but this was the game. This is the game that broke it for me. You bought this Vasquez kid. Give him as long as you're waiting for Maignan to come back, and they say sometime in February. Well, give this Vasquez kid a shot. Let's see what he can do. I mean, it can't hurt at this point. It certainly can't be any worse than Tatarusanu. Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely criminal to not come out and challenge that through pass that ultimately led to the penalty for Lazio. That killed the game. That right there killed the game. Giroud had no space. And they're talking about, people are making comments, he couldn't get any services. Like, they couldn't even get passes into him. The two under the radar outstanding performers in this game were Nico Casale and Alessio Romagnoli. Okay? Yeah. Every time Giroud made a run, one of them was tracking him. There was no chance to get him the ball. And if Milan are going to do something other than Leao, it has to be Giroud getting it in high points and players can run off of him. And they had no chance of doing that in this game today. They've gotten predictable. And it's disappointing to watch. The first goal was just completely criminal. Everybody stood and just watched. And that's the other thing. When I looked at this lineup, I said, okay, the danger man is Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. Immobile's out. You better know where he is when the ball's coming into the box and the ball's coming into the attack, into your third. And sure enough, 4 minutes in and he scores, and everybody just watched him walk right in and put one past Tatarusanu. Just utterly disappointing all the way around from Milan, but also excellent from Lazio. And it was a team win from Lazio. It wasn't, Luis Alberto was magnificent. Milinkovic-Savic was magnificent. I talked about Casale and Romagnoli. I thought Marusic was outstanding. Felipe Anderson in the false nine, deputizing while Immobile's out. It works. And I think that dynamic created a lot of confusion. They're not as predictable when they have the ball. And it left Milan with chasing shadows. So while I'm dogging Milan for their performance, I do want to give credit to Lazio and give credit to Sarri. They were outstanding today, deserved every bit of that 4-0 win. And the only surprise here, the only shock after watching that 90 minutes is how Lazio didn't score more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me go to the mouth of the South here, Alex Dano. Is it just as simple as Milan needs a new formation, or is it lack of personnel? I mean, we've seen other teams with a 4-2-3-1 with a 10 who seem to do very well. So is it a lack of talent, or is it just as simple as a formation change in your eyes?
No, it's both. Because obviously there are several clubs in Italy who could use reinforcements in January, and Frank mentioned Zaniolo as a distinct possibility. I know we'll talk about him a little bit more, but with the way the finances have gone in Serie A, not a whole lot of teams are getting those reinforcements they crave. So I thought Frank hit the nail on the head that you've got to experiment with that midfield, because I'm not going to say that, Milan, obviously anyone catching Napoli is virtually impossible at this point. I'm going to say Milan's in a slump. Like, I see some Milanisti who obviously are very emotionally close to it. Everybody needs to be fired. The club needs to be sold. Every player needs to be sold. It's like there are a lot of overreactions happening right now, but yes, and they are, they're winless in their last 5 in all competitions. They have been outscored 7-0 in their last 2 games. I understand that a lot of frustration can stem from that, but you need to experiment because sometimes that's the best way to snap out of your funk. But also, this was a virtuoso performance by Lazio. This was Sarri said it after the match, and I completely agree with this was their most complete performance of the season. And like I'm watching back that opening goal, the Milinkovic-Savic goal that Frank was talking about, and it really is beautiful the way that it played out, because not too often do you see a goal like that where 2 things can be true at once. One thing can be true that from Lazio's standpoint, the buildup was unbelievable. He had 2 dummies in the box before Savic finished the goal. And then at the same time, it was also horrific defending by Milan because there were 3 men in the box just watching the ball. But so it was like, it was simultaneously beautiful in the buildup and horrific defending. But it was that type of performance from Lazio all night long. And, it's very crowded. Like, I'm not going to say anyone else has a real shot at first place, but second, third, fourth Champions League positions, that's completely up for grabs right now. If Milan wants to try to hold tight in second place, I do believe they need to do some experimenting. Inter just needs an exorcism. And Lazio, obviously, if they can keep up this sort of form, they can find themselves very much in that conversation as well. Same thing with Roma.
Well, I just think that whatever they change, I think their best chance at getting away from just jamming it into Leao and hoping he does something with it is getting Tonali in a role where he can get in more advanced positions and make himself a little bit more dangerous. I don't think the 10 works anymore. I was underwhelmed with Brahim Diaz. I think they want to continue to do this system in the hopes that De Ketelaere will eventually get it, and make an impact. But even if he does, you can put him on the right side of a 4-3-2-1, and you can put Bruges did it, and then you can put Leo on the other side with Giroud as your striker, and then you play Benacer, Vranks, and Tonali, or some kind of combination. Pobega's
Adli. There's also Adli. Don't forget about Adli
and Adli. Yeah, I think it's time to flip it around. I mean, it's time to try something different. Because if you don't, I mean, it's adapt or die. How many times have we heard that across the landscape of sports and business and any other walk of life? You keep going out and doing the same thing, you're just going to get predictable and found out. And that's just about what the consensus of everybody is saying. So, and then once again, I'll reiterate with Lazio. The false 9 just gave Milan all kinds of problems. Nobody knew where to go defensively. Tomori and Kalulu were confused. The comfort of knowing that a 9 is going to be in higher positions and they can pass him off, that wasn't there. So they were like, well, where do we go? What do we do? And then it was the same thing when Chiar went in for Tomori. So, and then on top of it, you don't have the depth. And now you might not have Tomori now for a while. You might not have Calabria for a while. So on that aspect, it gets worse.
Alex, let me ask you this. All season long, outside of Napoli, everyone's talking about it's Milan contending with them. It's Juventus, who are now mid-table team. Inter, right? Lazio quietly got within 1 point of Milan now in second place. Is it time that we start considering them as a potential Scudetto challenger at this point? We all knew, most of us knew, the sane ones knew that Mourinho and Sarri in their second years were going to be vastly improved team-wise compared to the first seasons with their clubs, and we're seeing that now. So is it time that we saw this performance from Lazio? Are they at that level now where we can say they might be able to challenge for Scudetto if they could keep getting these results?
I'm going to say no, they're not consistent enough. I think that they are good enough where obviously they were good enough today to put a 4-0 beating on Milan. I've seen them beat Inter too many times in the last few seasons. They gave Juventus hell, a few years ago during that Scudetto challenge during the COVID year. I think if anyone's catching Napoli, as unlikely as that may be right now, but I've experienced Spalletti in winter. You never know what can happen in, the January, February, March type of months. I think if anyone's going to catch them, it's going to have to be a Milan or an Inter, because those sides have the quality. To me, for as good as this Lazio is capable of playing under Sarri, especially getting it done without Ciro Immobile, getting a big victory like that, scoring 4 goals without Ciro in the lineup is impressive. I can't see a club like Lazio having that sort of consistency. I have the same conversation with them as, we had this conversation in recent years. When Atalanta has put out some incredible squads in recent years, can they challenge for a Scudetto? They just can't. They just don't offer the quality to have that kind of consistency down the stretch. So I think if anyone's going to catch Napoli, obviously it's not going to be Juventus after being docked 15 points. It's going to have to be Milan or Inter.
Frank,
and I think a layer that'll add to this, Lazio through the first half of the season have had the benefit of getting Napoli, Inter, and Milan all at the Olimpico. So they got to travel to those places in the second half of the season. Their away form is better, but it is, evident. One of the things that's evident, the 2-0 win at Atalanta. But for that 2-0 win, I'll cancel it out with a 3-0 loss at Juve. So they're kind of still, their away form looks good, and I think it's like 5th or 6th in the league. It isn't consistent enough, and there's going to be some tougher away fixtures for them, which might put them off the pace. I need to see some more consistency in away matches, and they need to stop dropping points against teams that they're supposed to do. We talked about Milan drawing at Lecce. Lazio lost there, and we get it. We've been harping about how Lecce have actually been pretty good at home. But Lazio are still capable of having some pretty confusing performances in away matches that make it hard for me to get serious about them being a contender. But at this point, why not them? You've got, why not Roma? Why not Atalanta at this stage of the game, especially the way Atalanta have come out of the blocks here in the new year, and no Europe that they have to contend with. So, it's a little bit more of a mountain for them, but if they can be a little bit better away, then I think that they can put a dent in this deficit. But I can't see it. I think it's going to be a little too challenging for them with the fixtures that are going to be in front of them for the rest of the way.
Yep, agreed.
So, So that's that. Lazio Milan. I think we've bickered enough about Milan, Richards. So
bickered or bitched?
What's that?
I said bickered or bitched.
We bickered.
Same.
I don't think we got quite to that. But we'll move on. Alex, let's talk. Alex, if you'd like to take it away on probably the game of the weekend, Juve and Atalanta playing to a 3-3 draw.
Yeah, what a match. And, I know that the timing of it, was shortly after Juventini found out about their punishment, being docked 15 points. So there was definitely some anger, some confusion, some bewilderment heading into this one. And listen, they shared the points in this one, but it was entertaining as you would expect. Lookman opening up the scoring at 4 minutes, Di Maria with a penalty, evening things up. Milik giving Juventus the 2-1 lead before Mela tied it up at the 45th minute. You also had goals then from a second from Lookman. He had the brace. Danilo tied it up at the 65th minute. Round and round we go, fellas, and it ends in in the type of draw where, whenever you have like the American sports fans, like, who wants ties? Ties are not good. These draws, my friends, can be very entertaining. I know both sides obviously felt like they left some points on the table, but this was a great match.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a fantastic match, and I kind of you knew that once that Plus Valenza news came out that despite how up and down Juve have been playing, that they were going to be motivated. They're going to come out and want to show that, hey, we're going to all rally around this focal point and really bring our best game. And yes, Atalanta's put up 1 million goals in the last couple of games. We don't care. We're going to come out and do a really strong showing. And then, obviously Lookman scores early, but the way that Juventus responded And early on, it looked like Atalanta were going to dictate the way the game was going, obviously with the early goal. But they came back, right? They got a penalty, they got a goal. Milik got a great goal as well. That was one of the goals of the week right there. A great pass by Fagioli. But Juventus, they went toe-to-toe with Atalanta. Atalanta are one of the hottest teams in the league in terms of goals in the last couple of games. If you look at a small snapshot. And Juventus, they for what they did what they had to do, they come out and they put up a puncher's fight, and it came out as a boxer's draw. But overall, I think they cannot be upset with the way they played, considering a team like Atalanta who can score goals for fun right at the moment. It's a pretty good result, and you had Danilo scoring a howitzer to tie the game at the end. It could have gone either way. We could have had more goals in this game, but you got to give credit to Juventus for really, with adversity on their back, stepping up and really showing up. They could have easily folded and got obliterated in this game, especially with that early goal, and they did not. So that's good for them and their fans to say, hey, look, we keep fighting back. Maybe we get some points, get some of them back from the deduction, so it's not 15. Who knows? But it's a strong showing from Juventus, even if they were at home or not.
For me, Atalanta, 5 games in all competitions to start 2023, and they've scored 20 goals. It's one of the takes I've given about a couple of weeks ago when I had to do this solo. I said, Atalanta are not going to miss Ruslan Malinovsky. It is a whole new way they play. They don't need the technician in the higher attacking positions. And, you look at what Ademola Lookman has done here since joining.
Which we correctly called ahead of the season.
I mean, if it wasn't for Kvaratskhelia, we'd be talking about Ademola Lookman as the new arrival here in Serie A. And we'd probably be giving him a little bit more attention. He's played 18 matches for Atalanta. He has 11 goals.
Should it be closer? Because he's got 11 goals. Kvaratskhelia got 7 goals. Now, granted, it's 7 goals and 7 assists versus, 11 goals and 3 assists maybe or something like that. So, I mean, Lookman is getting overlooked because of what Kvaratskhelia is doing. But, I mean, Lookman is having a fantastic year. And, luckily he could play left side or right side, because then you would have, you could argue to say who's going to, you can have both guys in your best 11 right now at the moment, because they're both playing really, really well.
Yeah, so it probably should be closer. But I think that because of Napoli's blistering start to the season, what they've done in the first half of the season, you're naturally going to gravitate to Kvaratskhelia. I think that Ademola Lookman deserves some love here in this space and in this conversation as far as impactful new arrivals, because he's been, statistically, you can argue he's been every bit as good, especially over these last few weeks. It's what Kvara has probably meant to Napoli and the impact that he's had leading him to first place, where Atalanta are still sitting in, they're sitting in fifth. And I think people will look at the optics of that to go towards the Georgian, which is very understandable. But I think that Lookman definitely deserves more credit than that.
Lookman is everything Milan thought CDK would be this year.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my rebuttal to that. For every Kvaratskhelia and for every Lookman, there's probably at least 20 CDKs every year, where it's not yet a bust. It's only been the first year.
Agreed.
And especially with young players, because it's tricky in Italy with the game being more. I mean, it may not be as tactical as it used to be. In some cases, it is. Depends on who you play. Depends on what you go up against. There's a certain team. We're going to talk about this again. When we go through the batch. But younger players, it seems like for the most part and in most cases they need a year. Okay, Rafael Leao needed time before he made the impact that he did for Milan. You can argue that Lautaro Martinez needed time before he made the impact that he did at Inter. Mm-hmm. Younger players just sometimes take a little while. If they're coming from outside leagues in particular, it just takes them and more often than not, it's going to take them a little bit longer. Lookman and Kvaratskhelia are exceptions to the rule, when it comes to young players coming over from abroad and coming over from different leagues. So I don't. So it's my long-winded way of saying I don't make De Ketelaere a bust just yet, because there's still time.
No.
And I would say this if he was playing for any other club in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just it's the nature of it. You know, you can probably put Tammy Abraham into the conversation of Kvaratskhelia and Lookman too. He came to Roma and made an impact right away. You know, but you go look at some of the other younger players that came over. He was the only one. Okay, so that's where that's the conversation that needs to be had when you're talking about young players. So that's at least my spin on it from what I've seen from Calcio over the years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
As it pertains to this match, you could probably argue that Juventus were probably the luckier team to get the point, at least in my opinion. I thought Atalanta played better. Some of the issues that plagued Atalanta last season just reared their ugly head in this particular game. And it's actually starting to across the board. While they're scoring a lot of goals, they're giving up some all of a sudden. What were we high on them in the first half of this for most of the first half of the season? We thought their defending was clearly better, and now it's taken a back seat. You wonder, and we'll have to see how this progresses. If they clean this up, if Gasperini goes back to being a little bit more tactical, his partnership, the two-man midfield in that 3-4-2-1 starting to get figured out again a little bit, and he's trying to get a little more aggression out of his wingbacks again, which is leaving the defenders exposed, and which is leaving Musso exposed. And these were the nature of Atalanta's problems all season last year and why they finished 8th.
It seems like they can play only one way or the other. They can't do a hybrid of both, right? Like some of the better teams can switch in between the game. Atalanta either play all-out defense or all-out attack. And we've seen this in the past. Like you said, they'll either score a lot of goals, but they give up a lot of goals, or they play super defense and they can't. And they struggle this year. They started out well, but then they kind of got in a funk where they dropped They got dropped to mid-table almost with the way they were playing, and it wasn't getting the results. So it seems like either their owner or Gasperini said, you know what, forget it. Let's just go back to scoring goals. Or at least we're really having fun when we do it.
Right, and I think that's just more in the Gasperini DNA, and it's not like they were lighting up the table, when they were specializing in defense. I mean, they were out of Champions League position then. I think honestly, it's in his DNA and it's in the club's DNA to be more of a free scoring club, even if you're going to have some 3-3 draws here and there.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Do we give Juventus a chance to climb back into this and snatch one of the lower end European places, or is this just? I mean, assuming this punishment sticks, or is this? I mean, it's Udinese's holding the Conference League spot for all intents and purposes. Well, right now it's Atalanta's in 6 because you save a spot for the Copa winner if it's not one of the top 6 teams. So
you can't discount the old lady. You can't discount the old lady because one, we don't know if the 15 points are going to stick. They could be reduced to like 9 or who knows, right? And plus, Juve, they can go on a massive winning streak, and if just the right pieces fall, obviously the teams who are below Napoli don't want to be in a second position because they're all losing. But don't discount Juventus. They could sneak their way back in this, and if the 15 points stick, and yet they go on this massive win streak, and they somehow finish with in second place again, and they're gonna be like, we should have won the title. They're gonna count us again, like Del Piero, right? So I'm not gonna discount them. I think they're obviously not going to the title if the points stick, but they could still be a factor European wise.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I think that they could still climb their way into a top 7 finish, even if the 15 points stick. It's hard. It would take a minor miracle for them to finish top 4, but I think they could snatch one of those later European spots.
And I just want to clarify one more thing here because I was looking at it, and SofaScore has me thrown off. They're only giving 3 Champions League places to Italy, which I'm like, okay, are we sure about this? And I just double checked.
7 years outdated.
Yeah, I'm just double checking that, and I'm seeing that Italy's ranked 3rd in the UEFA coefficient. So the top 4 countries get 4 teams, so they still get 4 teams. So 1 to 4 goes to the Champions League, 5 to 6 goes to the Europa League, and then 7th goes to the Conference League. So Udinese is holding the Conference League spot, which is only 5 points away for Juventus at this point. So, Juventus's other option is maybe the Europa League suddenly just got really important in terms of a priority in trying to win it, because that's another path to the Champions League for the next season. So we'll have to see how they treat those games, because initially we were looking at it and thought they weren't going to care, but maybe they might have to. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. So that's Juve Atalanta. We talked about Lazio Milan. Let's get to the rest of it. So it all kicked off on Saturday. Hellas Verona taking on Lecce, a 2-0 win for Hellas Verona. Fabio De Paoli, a nicely placed header in the 40th minute to go up 1-0. Darko Lazovic scores again in the 54th minute, played in by Ivan Ilic. So 2-0 win there for Hellas Verona as they try to improve their situation. Napoli at Salernitana, it was Napoli winning 2-0. Giovanni Di Lorenzo finishing after some nice combination play, and then where it was Anguissa that finds Di Lorenzo on the back end, and a nice finish. And then Victor Osimhen scoring a striker's goal in the 48th minute, little cleanup of a ball off the post, putting Napoli through to the 2-0 win. Just efficient performance from Napoli in this game is probably the best way to describe it. Fiorentina 0, Torino 1. It was Alexei Miranchuk in the 33rd minute, my goal of the week. Nice floating curler past the goalkeeper, giving Torino an away win. Fiorentina continuing to struggle. Sunday morning, it was Sampdoria 0, Udinese 1. Very nice tifo by Sampdoria with Gianluca Vialli, by the way. And if you looked at this game, if you looked at how the performance went, Udinese was very effective on the break. Sampdoria were definitely creating going the other way, had a little bit more of the ball. Again, playing better under Stankovic, but not getting the results. That's just where it's at right now with Sampdoria. But it would be, oh Lord, don't let me botch his name, Ehezibue.
Gesundheit.
Nailed
Kingsley,
it. I'll give it to you.
Nailed it.
Kingsley Ehezibue. It's Kingsley Ehezibue scoring in the 88th minute. Really a heartbreaking performance or heartbreaking result for Sampdoria. I thought they played well in this game. Deserved to get something out of it. Monza won, Sassuolo won. It was Gian Marco Ferrari in the 13th minute. Canceled out by Gianluca Caprari in the 60th minute. And then Spezia 0, Roma 2. Stefan El Shaarawy just before halftime, wonderful counterattack. Paulo Dybala finding him. And then Tammy Abraham putting it away in the 49th minute. Another greatest after some good pressing, and Dybala wasting no time, just playing it in behind the Spezia defense. And Abraham was in 2-0 for the Giallorosso. Monday's action. Bologna won, Cremonese won. Cremonese new man Davide Ballardini. We know him from his time at Genoa. We know it's dentist chair appointment when you play a Davide Ballardini managed team, and that's what Bologna had to endure. Outshot Cremonese 21-9, but only walk out of there with a point, and it was a Cremonese penalty scored by David Okereke, and then canceled out by a Vlad Kirik's own goal. Almost had a second own goal that had to be cleared off the line, in fact. So Bologna, looking at that as 2 points lost. Cremonese going to grab every point they possibly can get. And then finally, sorry, Alex, Inter 0, Empoli 1. It was Tommaso Baldanzi coming in the 64th minute, 66th minute. He scores. This was after Inter were reduced to 10 men in the goal was in the second half. Skriniar's second yellow, 40th minute, red card. That might have been his last action as an Inter player. So.
Yeah, and it's purely tragic, and the way the whole match played out, and it was one of those matches where the quotes coming from his agent, which basically put the nail in the coffin for any hopes that Interisti had for him, coming to an agreement to stay with the club. His agent was basically giving Skriniar's side of it and why he's heading to PSG and what Inter were, unwilling to pay him and all that. And, the timing was piss poor. I mean, to have that stuff come out, as the match was happening, and then Skriniar gets sent off in the 40th minute, which makes people think, oh, he's doing this on purpose. Like it was the sort of theater that only Inter can provide. And I say that as a lifelong Interista. It's the most Inter way possible for one of the best players to ever put on the blue and black stripes. Over the last decade. I mean, for the last about 6 seasons, Skriniar has been really the uncrowned captain for so many years. And now this season, since Handanovic was benched, Skriniar has been the captain. It's going to be a short-lived captaincy, but it was just horrible because you would have wanted Skriniar's potentially final match, or at least final home match with the club, to be, a victory. Maybe he scores a goal on a header from a set piece or something like that. Instead, he gets sent off in the 40th minute. Not that Inter were playing very well when he was on the pitch either, but yeah, it was downright depressing, fellas. I mean, it really was. Maybe to see Skriniar at the Miazza for the final time going out like that.
Yeah.
Richard, reaction to the match week 19 games?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, the score lines were pretty standard. Obviously, the Empoli's, winning that was not expected. Good to see that, at least on my end. But, I guess I can't celebrate too much because Milan lost 4-0. So, but, really, really, I want to talk about Roma because they're led by the flying Dybalas. Dybala has really stepped up in the last few games and really is taking the bull by the horn and really taking his team on his shoulders, whether it's with assists or goals or whatever. You see Abraham scoring now. You see El Shaarawy scoring today. Really, the team is finally embracing him as the playmaker, and I think they're also effectively moving away from Zaniolo. And it's good to see that the team is finally starting to play and starting to score goals like we thought they were going to score originally at the beginning of the season. It's been a very slow process for them. I mean, they're only 1 point away from Milan at the moment, so they're quietly having a very good season. But it's starting to warm up now. As Lazio are warming up, so are Roma, and it seems like these two clubs are always at each other's hips. Wherever one goes, the other one goes as well. And so look for Roma to really start putting results, back to back here in the coming weeks, and really try to assert themselves in the top 4 because. Ultimately, that was the original goal at the beginning of the season. Many of us thought that they could achieve that. Started out rough, but now they're in a prime position where they could really achieve that result. Yeah, Spezia, right? You want to say, oh, just laugh it off. They just sold, one of the better defensemen in QBR. But it's never an easy game, especially when you go into Spezia. And so Roma, the fact that they've been getting results, the last couple of weeks, and a nice victory on the road, comfortable win on the road. I thought it was impressive from Mourinho's team.
Okay, so we talked about Cremonese decided that they're going to do it through not having the ball with Davide Ballardini as manager if they're going to have any hope of getting out of this. And you know what? When I looked at Cremonese, I think it's a smart hire considering considering what they have, because I think the back three are all veteran enough. And I like the goalkeeper, Carnesecchi, young goalkeeper who's going to find work with a better club here in Serie A one of these days. I think he's an Italian. Is he under 19 right now? I believe so. But I mean, Kirikes, okay, fine. The own goal was unfortunate. But it's a smart way for them to try to play, and they can counter through their wing backs who have some talent to them, and then you have Okereke who can be helpful on the counter. So it's a smart way for them to do it. Let's see here. As I say, it's just Sampdoria. At some point under Stankovic, they just have to win. I think that they've had some performances that they're playing well enough. They're certainly playing better than they did under Giampaolo. The wins just need to come now. The other comments that I made, Sassuolo only getting it would have really been a big help for Dionisi if they could have won that match at Monza. Sitting there at 17th. They now travel to Milan, which doesn't look as daunting as it might have been a few months ago. And one of the comments that I made looking at how poor the fullbacks played for Milan is that Lorient and Hamid Traore and Berardi and co are just going to be salivating at the prospect of having a go at this Milan defense. So that's something I'm going to have some concerns with as a Milan supporter. And then Fiorentina. I mean, right now 15 points aside for Juventus, I've got to say Fiorentina is the biggest underachiever in this league.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, you could argue that. Yeah,
I think you could argue that for the past several seasons that they've been up there with underachievers. I mean, every time you feel like they're on the up and up, they make big investments. And I know a lot of people thought, years back when Comiso took over, that his ambitions were so high he could take them somewhere. And I don't know, they always end up regressing to the mean.
Yep. So
Torino won in Florence for the first time since 1976. That is crazy.
Wow,
that is crazy.
Nuts.
You never guessed that, but yeah,
they play there every year. They haven't won there since '76.
That is nuts.
That
is Kyle. Thank you for scooping that up, bud. I didn't know that.
Scoop of the week. Scoop of the week.
Scoop of the week. So, we interrupt this planned Serie A Sitdown to bring you the Squadra Finora. Boy, it just went right under our nose here with the way the way things have gone, and little do we know that we're halfway through the season, and every time we do halfway through, we give the Squadra Finora, which is basically Italian for team so far. So, our all Serie A team. So we've got. We've been assembling it here in our private chat as we are on the fly. So we're going to do, and we always do this in homage to the team that was winter champion. Yes. In this case, it's Napoli and their most preferred system, 4-3-3. We do try to make the team as functional as we possibly can. So we're going to start with the goalkeeper. Goalkeeping this season, and I think a lot of this is magnified by the fact that Mike Magnan's been out. But it's, we had one that was on a really, really strong run. It's been a nightmare for him the last couple of games, but I think he just edges out everybody else. I think that because of the string of shutouts and the lengthy shutout string that he had, the lengthy scoreless run that he had, we're putting Wojciech Szczesny in as our goalkeeper in the Squadra Finora. Alex, I'll start with you on that. Do you feel okay with that decision? You're on mute.
Rookie. Oh, rookie.
What I would have said if I wasn't muted is I am 1,000% okay with that decision.
Okay.
I would say, I would say the only other person I would even think of would be Alex Moret. Though he's had a quiet season, it's been a good season. Napoli, obviously, clearly better than everybody else. His save today was spectacular. One of the plays of the day. But because Tech is his penchant for the big game and the dramatic save, eye candy wise, he's a little bit more better. He's got that long streak that you talked about, Frank, shutout streak and stuff. He's getting ready to break Buffon's Juventus record for shutouts in a career at Juventus. So it's hard to go either or. And by the end of the season, Moret might have this, as the best goalkeeper. But at the moment, I would agree. Wojciech Szczesny is the guy you probably pick in goal.
I think you can also make a case for Provedel too for Lazio.
Yes, strong.
So. But yeah, let's go with Szczesny and let's go with Meret and Provedel as our number 2 and our number 3 off the bench. So right back scored this week and has just been solid and steady as it gets for Napoli. One of the under the radar guys for why they've been so successful this season, Giovanni Di Lorenzo, Richard, will be our right back in this setup.
Yeah, Mr. Consistency, the captain for Napoli. He just he shows up every game. He puts his heart on the sleeve. This season in particular, like he's always been a good right back, but this season in particular, he's been much more consistent, providing goals, even not only helping out defensively, also offensively, either with assist or getting to the box trying to get some goals. He's done everything for Napoli, and he's for a long time we would say right back and left back would be the weaknesses of Napoli. This season, not so much, Alex.
Yeah, no, I would agree 100% with what he's provided this year, and he's been one of those revelations and most consistent players in Serie A to this point.
Okay, let's go to the center back position, and we're going to stay in Napoli. Alex, another new arrival to Serie A. We thought Koulibaly was going to be tough to replace. This guy has gotten the job done. probably beyond what anybody could have imagined. Min Jae Kim gets into our Squadra Finora.
Yeah, he's a no-brainer. One of the best additions, I think, heading into this season, especially trying to replace a guy like Koulibaly. I mean, you talk about just hitting the ground running and, being one of the top defenders in Serie A right away. I've been impressed.
Richard, thoughts on Min Jae Kim?
That's a no-brainer for me. I think he is, like Alex said, he's no-brainer. One of the best performing center backs all season long. Coming into the season, everyone's talking about Bremer this and Tomori that, and Min Jae Kim slides in and just taking the league by storm with offensive ability, defensive ability, inspiring the team at times as well. So yeah, Min Jae Kim, no brainer for me.
Okay, the other center back position, we're gonna throw a curveball at everybody with this one. Because I think there's a lot of different players that you could even partner. You can even put Rahmani and just make it a Napoli double threat. The Milan defenders have been a little bit underwhelming as we've gone on. There's really, as good as Juventus have been as a collective defensively, there's really not an individual player that you can look at and say, yeah, you're a big part of what. I think it's the collective and how they've played that have led to them defending as well as they have. We're going to go to a player that I don't think is getting a lot of buzz, veteran Italian international. And a good part of why they have kind of gotten out of their early season funk and gotten to where they are. Yeah. Armando Izzo of Monza, Richard, help support the argument for him being in this team.
Yeah, he's quietly been a pretty solid defender in the years that he's been playing Serie A, even when his time at Torino and stuff like that. He's always been a guy who's been good, but just not quite at that next level. And this year we're seeing with Monza that truly, as his game has gotten better, Monza have gotten better, and he's a big reason why they've ascended in the table and are at the moment safe from relegation. And Izzo has just been Mr. Consistency back there, much like I was talking about with Di Lorenzo. Izzo is a guy that the Monza can rely on, and at times can get up top and score some goals as well. But he's been really doing the work. He's kind of kept it simple this year, and that's been a benefit to him and his team. And I think Monza are the better for having him here. I think if he wasn't there, they wouldn't be quite as high as they are on the table at the moment.
I like the Izzo shout out. I've been a fan of his since he was in Torino, and I always, he's been linked to some bigger clubs over the years, and I was always, I think, disappointed on his behalf that some of those moves didn't materialize. So I don't mind the shout. I mean, I'll be a little bit of a homer here and say I'd like to give a shout to Milan Skriniar, even though he may be on his way out of Serie A shortly, because the guy has just been he's been such a brick wall, and he's been a rock throughout the season. But maybe you could make the argument that Izzo is possibly more valuable to his team, at least on the pitch, than Skriniar is, although that still to me could be a tough argument to make. And then off the pitch, I don't know. So it's hard. It's hard for me to not give one of those center back spots to Skriniar.
Yeah, Izzo has been part of 4 clean sheets for Monza. They're a little bit different, and they're a little bit more drastic defensively when he's not in the game. Evidence that Izzo's only been in 12 of Monza's 19 games, but when he's been in there, he has given some leadership back there, and he has helped kept some things short up. Another guy you could probably make an argument for, a guy that I've been pretty impressed with, despite the team underachieving. I think Lucas Martinez-Quarta has been very good this year too, over at Fiorentina. So I think that maybe he deserves a bit of a shout. Another guy that I would probably lump into this conversation, if you want to go to Lazio, Nico Casale, I think, has been outstanding. It felt like for the longest time, every time he was in a Lazio team, Lazio wasn't conceding a goal. And then the part he played in their performance today too. Like I said, I think the 2 center backs were very much under the radar, against Milan compared to the rest, the way the rest of the team performed. But a great compliment you can pay to a center back is that they're playing well if you're not saying anything about them throughout a game. So so that's another thing. So, but we'll go with Izzo, just slightly edging out a couple of those guys, and Skriniar to your point. But we will put an Inter guy in there, Alex. We'll put Federico Di Marco as our left back in the Squadra Finora, just past Teo Hernandez and Mario Rui at this point. I mean, I always make the comment, he's one of those guys that probably has crossed the ball 8 or 10 times before he even gets off the bus. But other facets of his game have definitely improved. You've seen him certainly up close and personal a little bit more than Richard and I have, even though we've seen a lot of him. So we'll let you take it away on your guy, Federico Di Marco.
Yeah, and he's, he had spent, prior to actually sticking with Inter's first team, he had spent countless seasons on loan, smaller clubs, and, he's good. He was always good for 3 or 4 just banger goals from outside the box per season, but a lot of inconsistency, and I think a lot of that just comes with God did not bless him with size and height, right? So you can create some mismatches in the air against Di Marco, but since he's settled on to Inter's first team, the guy has become now unbenchable. I know that, about a year ago at this time when Inter acquired Robin Gosens, the expectation was that Gosens would be the Perisic replacement because Perisic was playing out of his mind the last couple of seasons. But then it became very, very clear heading into this season, even late last year, that Di Marco was the guy. He was the guy to take over for Ivan Perisic, and you were spot on with the crossing. The greatest strength that Di Marco has. I mean, not only tremendous effort, he always seems to have the energy. He's making the runs. He's always there when you send balls out to the left flank. He's always on the other end of it, but his crossing, his left foot is pinpoint accurate and it's deadly. If you give him even a second to plant his foot and cross, he's going to put it right on someone's head or right on someone's leg. And it's always dangerous when he's crossing to the center of the box. And, someone like Edin Dzeko has really benefited from that. And he's been on the end of most of those crosses this year. And honestly, it came to my surprise because I never thought Di Marco would be this good in an Inter shirt. Like I always thought of him, hey, this is like a nice rotational player, good squad player. He can play multiple positions on the defense. You can slot him in at left center back or left wing back when need be. I didn't think he would become a guy who you just can't bench. I mean, he's really had a phenomenal run going back to, the later stages of last season.
And he's really been a big game player too for them, right?
Yeah.
The bigger games, he's always been one that you've noticed, distinctly. And so, I agree with that, Chad, about Di Marco.
And has given Italy a little bit of a lift when called upon to play in the left back position. Now that's, with Spinazzola still trying to recover from things, and certainly a different player than Spinazzola, but providing a little bit of a different element. So it's a 3-man midfield when you play for Luciano Spalletti and Luciano Spalletti's Napoli. And Richard, we're going to start with one of our guys in the squad, if you know it, Ismail Benacer of Milan. We're going to put into this team. And looking at him on the season so far, 1 goal, 1 assist, but creating from a deep position, creating a couple chances a game, winning tackles, doesn't foul much. I mean, he got his 5th yellow card today and he's going to be suspended. And certainly we have to remember that there's a whole 19-game body of work here, not just the one nightmare that he had today, but generally speaking, Benacer has been a steadying influence in the midfield for the larger part of the season. Yeah. A little bit of a drop off here in these last couple of games, but not to the point where we can keep him out of this team.
Yeah, I mean, if you judge him just solely on today, he'd be on a crap and a cracker team, right? That's how bad he was. But overall in the season so far, he has been a pretty decent player. He is, in my opinion, one of the best ball handlers in the league. To evade defenders and attackers all the time. He's just so good in tight spaces. And then, like you said, that playmaking ability to feed it out to his team members, whether it's Leao or Tonali or whomever, he has such a good vision of the ball. But you can comfortably rely on him to not lose the ball when he is in possession and get out of any situation, which is difficult time because a lot of these teams know how to press you. Napoli, for example, and being able to control that press, keep the ball, and then distribute out to your team to trying to kickstart the offense. Benacer, I don't think there's anybody better than him in the league who can do something like that. And he's done this for not just this season, also last season as well. But just looking at this season, when Milan was playing well, a big portion is because Benacer kept that midfield humming really well. And so, Benacer for me, I think was a no-brainer to be in that midfield, even though there are a lot of good midfielders in the league. Benacer, just what he contributes to Milan is so much.
Alex, Benacer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that shout with Benacer. I mean, he's just one of the most talented midfielders in Serie A. You even when there are some ups and downs for Milan, he's usually going to be one of the guys responsible for getting Milan out of a slump.
We just barely left off Anguissa in this team, but we should recognize him here. I mean, it's again, you're looking at a body of work here. I mean, heck, you could put the whole Napoli 11 in this team of the season right now. But Benacer gets in just very, very slightly over Anguissa. But a Napoli midfielder that we will put into this team is Lobotka. Alex, been a huge difference in his performance over the course of this season. Talk about him a little bit here.
Yeah, he's helped give the entire squad a list. I don't think you could possibly put together a best 11 at this point and leaving him off of it. And obviously we're going to show some love to Napoli given the form that they've had to start the season. But Lobotka has been a big part of it. So, yeah, 1,000% he belongs.
Yep, Richard, Stanislav Lobotka.
Yeah, he's just he's really. I mean, last year he was good, but this year he's come to another level, and I think he's on the elite level, at least how he's played this season, right? And Anguissa alongside him, both of them are just phenomenal together. But I think Lobotka, what we've seen at least in the bigger games, is that he's really coming to the forefront. And usually, when you talk about defensive midfielder in a big game, if you don't talk about that, it means they're probably doing a good performance, but the fact that you're mentioning him is because he's doing so well, not only shutting down the best midfielders from the opposition or their attackers, he's kickstarting the offense, he's getting involved in the offense as well. Not only is he a deep line playmaker, but he will get into the box and get his opportunities as well. Not like Benacer, very good vision of the ball. I am just so flabbergasted at the talent this guy has, and he continues to get better and better every week. And you see this also in Champions League too. We've seen him against Liverpool and some of these other teams. He just steps up to whatever game it is, and he doesn't care. And so Lobotka, absolute no-brainer for me in the midfield.
Yep. I mean, so he just went with two midfielders that work well to keep their midfields glued together as best they possibly can and performed really well. Let's get to a guy who, a few years ago was being talked about as a, 100 million, 150 million plus midfielder, and then things tapered off. And then under the guidance of Maurizio Sarri, he has just become so dynamic, and he's become the midfielder that we all thought that he should have been all along for several years. Just, he's taken the dip, he's come back up. You can argue that he deserves a place at the table among the best midfielders in Europe at the moment. Richard, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic of Lazio is having an outstanding season.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about 5'2" player. This guy's got all the tools, and he's tall, so he's fucking excellent from the headers. This guy is just a really great player, smart player, sees the pitch so well. And oh, by the way, he can score some goals. He can score some bangers. He scored a nice goal today against Milan. He scores all the time off of headers. He plays in the big matches. He always seems to step up and score against Inter or Milan or Juventus in these big games. He knows how to control that midfield, especially when at times when Luis Alberto wasn't always in the starting 11. He was the guy who was supposed to be controlling the play, and he would always be the main guy, the main focus for Lazio to kind of kickstart that offense and get the ball ultimately to Immobile. And so SMS has been just so influential for Lazio, and the reason why they're so high up at the table at the moment. And it's just like you said, he is becoming the player that we thought he should have been the whole time. And you can see now why many teams are starting to look at him once again. Is because this guy has all the tools that can make a world-class midfielder, and he's just showing it game in, game out this year, and absolutely has to be in the starting 11.
Yeah, 5-tool is a great way to describe it, Richard, because when you have a midfielder of his size, right, someone who's got the build of an elite number 9, who also has his range and his work rate, it's like a cheat code, and he's really put it all together under Sarri's system. And, when you can have someone who can help pick up a goal scoring load when, you're without your prolific scoring number 9, the way Lazio is right now without Cheeto, it really helps that you have a midfielder like this who can carry the team on his back. I mean, you talk about Savic's size. It's why, obviously he's had plenty, a different player has had plenty of issues, but you think about like Pogba in his prime, when he was at the peak of his powers, like his height, to go along with the range and the work rate, it just wasn't fair. And Savic has now been able to put those factors together more consistently.
Yep.
Great comparison.
Plenty of other midfielders that are playing well. I mean, I think Hakan Çalhanoğlu has been good for Inter this season. You can have him in this conversation. Piotr Zielinski, who we talked about maybe being the guy that, everyone's fawning over Kvara, they're fawning over Osimhen, and here's Zielinski who's pulling the strings, and maybe not getting the kind of love that the others are getting, and he's really stepped up and been good. That's another guy that you could probably, insert into this conversation a little bit. Sandro Tonali, again, to throw this game out, body of work, has been solid when he's asked to run the show in the midfield, and when he's getting in those positions, you see some positive performances. Just going on the list, Cup Miners from Atalanta has been very good and a big part of Atalanta's success. You go into the Roma midfield, Lorenzo Pellegrini, from a playmaking role, plenty of guys, but you can only pick three. We're comfortable with the functionality of what Benacer, Lobotka, and Sergej can bring to this midfield. So now let's go to the fun part, the attackers. And Alex, we'll start with you. And we were talking about him a little bit earlier. Ademola Lookman of Atalanta will be one of our wingers. 11 goals in 18 appearances for Ledea. He's made a great impact, a big part of why Atalanta is having a lot of success this season. You're on mute.
You're on mute again.
Sorry about that.
I know it's your last day and everything, but we still gotta have our standards.
when you can get that much goal scoring productivity from a winger, it just adds so much to an attack. And he's having just a prolific season, Lookman. And it's like I'm surprised he's only got 11 goals, because it seems like every time I'm watching an Atalanta game or checking back on a box score, the guy has a brace. Like almost every time I see this guy play, so he absolutely belongs here.
Yep. Richard, we've had a lot of superlatives about Lookman so far on this podcast. Do you want to give any more?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like when Atalanta hired him, we saw the tools this guy brought, and we thought this would fit Atalanta's system. It fits perfectly to what Gasperini does. It's the exact type of player that we thought maybe Boga also could contribute. And Boga's starting to come around now, but Lookman is contributing goals left and right, and he's playing on the left side, he's playing on the right side. He can kind of move all over the place, which is really nice for Gasperini, because he has options that he can throw out there, and it can confuse defenses, because you can put Pasalic on the right, or you can put Boga on the left, you can put anywhere, you can move these guys around, and he's so versatile. And the fact that he's getting goals is a big thing, because typically with the wingers, like Alex said, you typically don't get goals in the department, right? Even Kvaratskhelia, there's only 7 goals in the season, but the fact that he's got 11 goals, he continues on this surge, he may approach 20 goals, which is ridiculous for a winger. And so the fact that he's producing at the level he is on his first year with the team, it's you got to give him kudos. He has to be on the team. He has been that good this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. A big part of Atalanta's success, as I mentioned. Let's come to the other winger, Richard. We were the only ones that are not surprised by his success. Knew that when he was coming to Serie A, there was this guy's going to be a stud, and he's going to fit right in pretty quickly. And he has done so. Khvicha Kvaratskhelia of Napoli, Richard, gets into he's only played a few months in Serie A, and he's already in the Squadra Finora.
Yeah, he's probably in the MVP hunt as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everything we just said about Lookman, you could probably say about Kvaratskhelia. The big difference between the two players is that he's that X factor. I mean, nobody seems to know how to stop him unless you're Inter. And with the way they defended him was magnificent, and they shut him down. But you can't do that every week and expect, and he's going to find ways. And Napoli are so talented, but Kvaratskhelia, he can move around. He is also versatile. He can beat you with pace. He can beat you with the passing ability. His vision is fantastic. His defensive work rate is unbelievable. I think that's also a big advantage over Lookman that he has, is defensively he'll come back and win the ball back. He wants that ball and then distribute off to his teammates. And so he brings so much to the table. Kvaratskhelia does. He's a hungry young player, and it shows the way he plays. He plays with complete passion, and he's scoring goals for fun. He's assisting for fun. I mean, I saw a couple interviews with him. He said he likes doing assists more because he's like set up his teammates so they can get involved, and when the whole team is involved and they're happy, he's gonna be playing happy and playing better. So I mean, he's the big X factor in the league at the moment. And how do you not have him as one of the best wingers in Europe?
Yeah, and it must be especially fun to facilitate teammates when you have, teammates like that and a number 9 like Osimhen to feed off of. So I don't blame him for liking setting up teammates, and it really does make that entire Napoli squad better. And I think he does feed off of that, and I don't mean that to take anything away from what he's accomplished, but obviously when you're talking about a new player in a new league and a new system, it helps them integrate more quickly when you have a cohesive squad like Napoli. So that's eased his transition. But at the same time, I didn't have the same confidence you guys had about how quickly he would hit the ground running coming into this year. That's been a pleasant surprise for me.
15 appearances in Serie A, 7 goals, 7 assists. I'd say that 10 million that Napoli paid for him has already been returned and then some. You talk about plus Valenzas. Can't wait to see what Napoli get. If they ever sell.
They're not going to lose 15 points for that one.
No, they're not. They're not. They're absolutely not. So you mentioned them. Alex. We're getting what we thought we would have gotten last year in his first season under Spalletti, but injuries hampered him. But now he's been healthy, and a healthy Victor Osimhen is bad for the rest of Serie A. 13 goals through 19 matches. Capocannoniere only by 2 now because Lookman's on his heels. But man, what a first half of the season for him.
Yeah, he's a unicorn because he's just so fluid on the ball, great off the ball. The movement is excellent. He's just so athletic and so talented. You talk about the injuries. Honestly, for what the previous 2 seasons he's been at Napoli, that's been the only issue that he's had. Like the only issue that he's had is a lack of consistency that comes from getting hurt, and some of it has just been fluke stuff. I mean, you get your orbital bone broken when you're going up for a header. It's like that's not the sort of thing where you can say this is an injury prone player. I mean, anybody's face can get broken if you collide with the wrong head at the wrong time, which happened to him and cost him a lot of time last season. So I'm not going to call him injury prone. I'm going to call him unlucky the last couple of years. And now that you see what he can do when he's on the pitch consistently, because, every time you come back from an injury, it takes a little time to get your fitness and your rhythm back. He's not had to go through that this year. He's been able to establish a rhythm throughout the entire season. And it's not surprising to see him on a Capocannoniere pace right now because of that.
Yeah, it's you likened him to a unicorn, and I like that. I like to look at him as like a gazelle because he is so effortless when he runs, and it doesn't seem like he's trying, but he is so much faster than everybody else.
Graceful is what he is.
Graceful, yes, and that's only just a facet of his game. His ability to score goals obviously is fantastic. He's got 13 goals. But he knows how to read the game so well. This is one of the things that makes Ciro Immobile so good is his reading of the game and being in the right place at the right time. Osimhen has that. The elite strikers have that. You look at the top 5, strikers in the world. They all have this innate talent where they can read the ball. They know where it's going to be. They know where the ball is going to bounce to, and they get there. They score. Look at his goal today, right? It gets the deflection, gets right there, right spot, and puts it away. He reads the game so well. And this adds everything else. He knows how to play off teams. He can hold up the ball. He's remarkably strong for his thin frame. He knows how to use his wingers. He does it all, really. He also backtracks as well, kind of very much like Kvaratskhelia. So there's nothing this guy can't do, and he just seems to be getting better and better with the league. And we had this conversation earlier in the year, like, would you want to see him a bigger frame, maybe like a Duvan Zapata or one of these bigger guys? And it's no, because his frame is perfect for what he does, and he can still do everything those guys can do, and he's got a lightning speed, right? And so this guy just does it all.
That's the thing. If he was bigger, he would lose the speed. I mean, maybe if he was bigger, he could have more durability. But again, the bigger guys tend to have more muscular injuries, so maybe that wouldn't even. I think he's fine the way he is.
Yep.
I don't need to give any more endorsement to Osimhen that you guys have already given. I just would be regurgitating what you guys are saying. So I would look at the guys that we didn't pick in this because there's still plenty of quality guys. Mattia Zaccagni, chief among them of Lazio, misses out on this front 3. He's been excellent. You can talk about Ciro Immobile also when fit. Is doing his usual stuff for Lazio. And a shout to a guy we talked about last week, Richard Mbala Nzola of Spezia, 9 goals in 19 games, really helping keep Spezia afloat.
Yep.
Rafael Leao has been strong. Clunker today, unfortunately, but certainly put him in the conversation, and the strikers for Inter, Lautaro and Dzeko in particular. All certainly deserve some honorable mention, but the front three really hard to crack that production that we've seen so far. So that's our squadra finora. In goal, Wojciech Szczesny. Back four, Di Lorenzo, Izzo, Kim Min-jae, and Federico Di Marco. Midfield of Ismail Benacer, Stanislav Lobotka, and Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. And our front three, Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman. We'd win a bunch of games with that, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Not if Allegri's our manager.
This is true. Lobotka would be playing. Lobotka would be playing right wing. Osimhen would be playing center back. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Oh man, we'll have fun. We'll have a little more fun at Juve's expense here momentarily. Let's just get to the transfers here, guys. Nothing has changed in terms of actually anything concrete and in terms of arrivals since the last time Richard and I hammered this out. Looks like a couple more additions to Spezia, but nothing that really grabs your attention. Salernitana grabbing Trost Ekong, who used to play for Udinese, but he was at Watford. That whole Udinese-Watford incestuous thing that the Pozzos have going on. I see Marco Benassi has joined Cremonese on loan from Fiorentina, part of the initiative to maybe help Cremonese get whatever points they can to get out. So nothing earth-shattering, but the rumors that are hitting, and the chief among them, talks going between Milan and Roma with Nicola Zaniolo going to Milan. It sounds like Milan want to offer between 18 to 20. Roma want 35 to 40. I don't know why Roma thinks he's worth 35 to 40 with all I get it because of the talent, but with the injury proneness, I can't. If I'm Maldini, I walk away.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Zaniolo. And Richard, let's start with you on this one. If this happens and he's a Milan player, gauge his impact.
If he's healthy, it's a big impact. He's a phenomenal talent. The question has always been his durability, right? If you ask me right now, do I want an injury-prone Zaniolo versus Salamakers and Messias? At least with Salamakers and Messias, I know they're going to be there. They're going to be available. And Zaniolo, we don't know that. But when he's there and he's healthy, he is no doubtably more talented than Salamakers and Messias combined. Now, the best case scenario is they keep Salamakers and Messias and then add Zaniolo. And then that way, if he does get injured, you still have Salamakers and Messias and you're where you were at before. But I think Zaniolo does have that ability to, if he can stay healthy, and we know how Milan Lab's history has been, it's not that great, but if he can some way stay healthy, it provides almost a mirror of what Leao is able to provide on the left-hand side. Gives them that talented option that can attack one-on-one and has that pace and has a counter ability, right? And it would bring so much to Milan again. So it's almost, if they can get that value or the price more reasonable, I think, from Roma, then it's why not go for it? Take a chance. If he gets injured, then you still have Salamakers and Messias. But it's hard with him because again, it's unlike Osimhen. Osimhen's been very unlucky, as Alex said. Zaniolo has massive injuries to his knees. I mean, areas that they don't get better as you get older. And so that's always the question mark with him. And I hope he does, whether he goes to Milan or Roma or wherever, he stays healthy the rest of his career. But, you always have to worry with players like this that, yes, they have that stigma of injury prone, and it's for good reason. I'm probably one of those kind of players too. So, I would take him, but it's knowing that it could possibly fall to shit really quickly.
Yeah, when you've suffered 2 ACLs before the age of 23, it's a big red flag for me when the current club is asking for 35 million. I mean, it's absurd. And obviously, this is the way negotiations work. You ask for way more than you're actually going to get, and then the team that wants to buy the player tries to lowball, and then if it works out, you meet somewhere in the middle. I also wonder if part of that, 35 plus million asking price is an Italian tax, because I'm sure the way Roma looks at it is, hey, this is not only a very talented young player, but he's Italian. Think about the marketing opportunities, how many shirts you would sell, around Milan to have, a young Italian player who, if he can stay healthy, can be a fixture for the Azzurri moving forward as well. I think that could be part of it. But other than that, I agree completely with what Richard said. I mean, the only key for Zaniolo is staying healthy. And obviously, when you've suffered as many serious lower body injuries as he has at such a young age, but then he's also very young. So if he can get over that hump, he's only 23 years old. He could still theoretically have a lot to give on the pitch, and he's more talented at right wing than anything you have right now. So to me, it's all the key of getting him at the right price. You don't want to overpay because he could be an injury liability, but if you can get him at a price that Milan feel comfortable with, there's a lot of upside there to Zaniolo.
Definitely with you guys on this. I like Anthony's. Definitely not worth more than 20 to 25. That's about the most I'd pay for him, just given the injury history. Milan should have previous with this because they went through this with Andrea Conti, who tore his ACL twice. He's been a shell of himself. He can't even get into Sampdoria. That's how bad it has gotten for him. So, you never know how these guys recover. Zaniolo seems to have shown signs when he's returned. But you never know when that happens again, so we'll see what happens. I mean, at this point, with how Milan have got to find a way to stretch this. And if Zaniolo is the answer, I mean, it's worth the roll. If you get the right price, it's worth the roll of the dice because Messias, and then the other thing is Messias, I think, is at the end of his contract this year anyway. So it's a forward thinking thing to bring another guy in, and get him in and get him acclimated now and put him into what you can, see if he has an impact. But then the idea is that you have a Leao and Zaniolo wing partnership with, finding a striker, because who knows how much longer Giroud's going to play. So there's some of it behind that. The only other noteworthy things that I noticed, guys, I don't know what you guys caught, talk to Weston McKennie maybe leaving Juventus and heading to Leeds.
Yeah.
As Jesse Marsch continues to build the U.S. national team over there.
So relegation then coming up shortly. I mean, didn't Venezia try to build a United States national team a while
Who
ago?
they had? They had Busio, and then they had the one other kid.
I can't even recall now. Yeah, it
starts with a T though.
Well. Yeah.
So.
And you can stick up the U.S. men's national team front too, because one U.S. men's national team think they're getting Jose Mourinho somehow. That's not
I saw that as well. It's
yeah. And then the other thing was also oh god, what's his name? Captain America, Christian Pulisic coming to Milan as well. As a rumor about that. I'm like, it wouldn't work because his attitude right at the moment would not work, and Zlatan probably kicked him in the head 55 times before the first game. So as much as talented as he is, there's a real issue at the moment with at least the U.S. men's national team players, Weston McKennie aside, and even to an extent, where they think they're better than they are, and so they want to feel like they have all the leverage, and you don't. Welcome to world football. You're not as good as you think you are, and so some of these players got to kind of take a step back and realize, hey, maybe I should calm down on my flamboyancy and kind of just be a team player. And so if Pulisic were to come to Milan, I don't think it would work well just because of personality wise. It would be a very similar to Gio Reyna's going on with the U.S. men's national team right now.
Yep.
Anthony, thank you. Yes, Tessman, that's the name. And then Ziyech being linked to Roma. Yeah. That would be the most Milan thing to have happen to them, that Maldini just completely farted around with this, and then Roma just go and grab him.
Yeah.
So it's
for cheaper too.
Yeah. That's just it. That's usually how it works. So, so I think it's just the lack of players coming in January is kind of interesting right now. I mean, usually. But historically, and more often than not, you don't see the Italian teams doing a lot of business in January to begin with. I mean, there's been some rare exceptions. The year that Milan brought Zlatan back, another year where they brought
too.
Balotelli.
Yeah, when Inter brought Eriksen in, that was a surprise.
Yep, R9. I mean, there and if it's and it's usually if it's a superstar like that, there's a cheap way to get them. More often than not. So it's not terribly alarming. I mean, Milan Twitter, a lot of them are complaining that Maldini's not doing any business in January. Nobody's doing any business right now.
Yeah, so. Usually Italian clubs in January, they start negotiating for summer buys. That's I don't know. That's just always the way. Over the last couple of years, I guess, Calcio fans become more impatient. You want everything in January, but usually the sporting directors in Italy are talking about the summer prices in January. It's usually how
exactly.
it goes.
Exactly. So let's touch on Juventus here. 15-point deduction for their plusvalenza scandal. Basically, they just overinflated sale prices of players that they sold. Basically, I think it basically ignites the debate is who gets to decide what the player is actually worth.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they come to that? So it's the difference between the reported sale price and the market price. And I believe that, if I understand this right, did Juventus, they get the sale price on the player and then they exaggerated the market price so that they could have more of a capital gain than what they actually should have had?
Yeah.
I think that's the way I understand it. So
a lot of people want to use Transfermarkt as the example. It's like it's a website that it's also estimating. It's not the actual valuation of a player. So you can't really use that, though it may be somewhat accurate. We all have a kind of idea what a player should be valued at, right? And Juventus really took advantage of this, and they're not the only ones. They're not. Yeah. They're not, right? Napoli are also with the Osimhen deal. Everyone's got their eyes on that, and that's been that case has been pushed for 6 months, and it's odd. I can see why Juventini are mad, because why is that deal pushed off the side? Because that could have a big impact on the Scudetto race, right? And they push it off to the end of the season. So then, whatever happens.
Well, that was a case where they bought him, and they bought him for a huge amount.
Yeah, it was like
78 million, and that they haven't sold him yet.
But the players involved never even went to Lille, and there's all this other shady stuff like Juventus.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So Napoli not out of the waters yet, but Juventus have done this for a long time. And Mirla Pjanic, that swap deal with Arthur Melo. They had so many other deals with Genoa over the years. Many guys guys you never even heard of getting sold for $20 million. Like, what? Who? And so, no, are they the only ones doing this? Absolutely not. But they've been so not caring what other people think when they do it, and Juventini now are just being like, oh, what? It's all us. Everyone's against us. It's like, okay, calm the fuck down. It's like, you're not. You've been known to do this for a long time, and you just got caught on doing this, and people want to start banning Serie A and this and that. Like, calm the fuck down. It's like, that's a little over exaggeration at this point. You got caught red-handed. Own up to it. The team responded very well on the pitch, which you would expect. But they had so many. It was, at least from what I remember when they first announced it in November, it was over the last 2 seasons they were really scrutinizing world football, and in particular Juventus, because they had an absorbent amount of transactions where they kind of inflated the prices. I mean, Barcelona's involved in this as well. There's several teams involved, and several Serie A teams. Chievo Verona of all teams is involved in this. Napoli, like I mentioned, and but Juventus has done it the most, and so they obviously had all the eyes on them. And there's a reason why the bigwigs all left Serie A, just in time before this was announced, because they knew shit was coming
and the other thing, if you look at the reason why this was happening just so blatantly with Juventus, why they were just more shameless with this, apparently, and I think that's why they're the first, and as of right now, the only team who's been punished for it. We'll see what else happens. I think this all stems from the Ronaldo deal. I think it became very clear when they acquired Cristiano for, what was it, 100 million, and they not only that, but they paid him the salary that he was making.
He got paid like most of the salary, right? Too. Which is like,
I think it was 60 million gross, 30 million net, which is obviously an extremely high payroll that they've been playing catch up on that for the last several years. And you also you had the issue of the alleged pay cuts during COVID, that apparently they didn't really cut pay. They just stopped reporting the extra pay for tax reasons, and they were paying the difference under the table, allegedly. So there was a lot. And I think most of this, guys, and yes, the inflated plusvalenzas, I admit they happen all over Italy, and I'm sure they happen in other leagues as well. I don't follow the other leagues as closely as I follow Serie A, but I think the fact that Juventus were so blatant about it, I think they were just playing financial catch-up for the past 4 years after the Ronaldo deal.
You're just trying to stay within a number that keeps you close to the income that you have to spend.
Right. It's like I may get a speeding ticket if I'm driving 20 miles per hour over. If I'm driving 6 miles per hour over, I won't. Right. I mean, that
Right.
you can break a rule, but
great
break it to a
analogy.
point where you're not so obvious that cop doesn't have to give you the ticket.
Yeah.
Is Italian football really in trouble if Juventus takes this 15-point penalty and is suddenly not in Europe? I don't think so either.
I mean, the last time Juventus got punished, Italy won a World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may lose a little bit of market appeal because the biggest brand is going to be in a bit of struggle for a while. But I don't think it dies like some of these people are saying, especially Juve Twitter. They're all saying
Serie A is better with a strong Milan, strong Juventus, strong Inter.
Yeah.
Yes, if Inter gets, if Juventus are with a big financial or point deduction, will that hurt them? Yes. Will it hurt the league? No, because fortunately for Serie A is really good product at the moment. Lazio is doing well. Roma is doing well. Atalanta are doing well. And would it hurt the league? No, but it yes, in the big scheme of European football and stuff like that, yeah, that'll hurt. And the optics, like you said, because the big three are the big three, and that's what really drives Serie A in terms of world recognition, right? People know who Juventus are. They're not going to necessarily know who Atalanta are, or I don't know, some of these other smaller clubs, but it's not going to really hurt the league. I don't think so.
No. So we will see. We'll see what we'll see what it does. I mean, if Italy want to really improve their league, then do something about the stadiums.
Yeah.
They don't.
Do something about the infrastructure. Do something about those things to try to make Italy a more appealing place to, for your clubs to play. But they continue not to. So, and then the ones that are trying to do it, there's this snag that they hit, or there's that snag that they hit. So it's just going to be, it's going to kind of be pulling teeth. So what you just need is you're going to need a new generation of leadership that just has a more progressive way of thinking than the old farts that are running the show now, and just continue to do things the old way because that's the way they've always been done. So it's just the way it is. So, but and we'll see how Juve evolve. I mean, I think that they just have to play. If they've got the players now to try to make up for some of this, and we'll see what they do with Europa League. And we talked about this earlier. Maybe Europa League becomes a priority because now that becomes their lone path to getting to the Champions League if this penalty hits.
Well, let me ask you this: like the one of the big stinks that Juventini have, it's always everyone's against us, everyone hates us. Nedved has said this numerous times on television, right? But the one rumor is that, and I think it's more fact, is that the wife of one of the big people at FIGC posted on Instagram the Juventus symbol with the -15 as a J and L or J5 or whatever.
Wow.
That was a big thing that Juventini kind of set them off. They were like,
I didn't see that.
FIGC is against us. And so that's why we should boycott Dazen. We should boycott Serie A, take our subscriptions. That was a big thing because they're like, see, the league is against us. It proves that the wife of one of the board members of FIGC hates us, and she's flaunting that Juventus are -15. It's like, okay, yeah, I get that. It's funny. It's really poor choice of posting things where you should know better.
She's my hero, by the way. Adriano in the chat says it was Gravina's wife.
Gravina's wife, yes.
If she wasn't already married, and if I wasn't already married, I'd make a run.
But this is still not a reason for making the gripes that they say they're going to gripe. And I it is what it is, I guess. But God, it's funny. It's Italian drama. It absolutely was. It's like what we remember from the Berlusconi days and Calcio and all that stuff. Yeah. It's Serie A is going to do Serie A, like Michael Lisi said like last week or the week before. Serie A is going to be Serie A.
That is for sure. So. Oh man, I mean, let's just keep it going with the comedy of the comedy and the hilarity of everything, and segue into the world's most popular hashtag game. Who won Calcio Twitter? Richard, take it away.
All right, let me get into this here. So, who was this? Sansone, Napoli Sansone said, Twitter Milan fans, this is a good signing, and points to Brasilia. And then Michael Lisi replied with, FOI, here's what the Scudetto looks like. And with Magnon, the signing of the year last year for Milan. So
true.
That is great.
Zing.
All right, Violissimo, who has been on a tear of late. Me right now, it's Luciano.
Oh, is that my old pal Moji?
See, don't be on the road too tough, but still cut you with a local touch.
Nice.
Wow. And that's from the Bad Sport documentary series on Netflix.
I was gonna say I didn't know Moji was a TikTok star. You learn new things every day.
There you go.
Yeah, that was from that was from Bad Sport, and one of their episodes from their series was Calciopoli and everything that centered around it, and Moji being at the center of it.
Nice. Wow. Nice. Napoli's in the thick of these things these days, and Calcio Turkey says, look at the translation. I don't read Turkish. Napoli's New Jersey after point penalty to the Juventus, and it has the standings with Juventus minus 15 under Napoli Jersey. Oh man,
that's a good one. Calcio Turkey right now might be the leader in the clubhouse, but Saturnion is going to have something to say about it because when that got handed down, plus 16 points ahead of this incredible Juventus team, yet they still doubt him. Pioli, you monster.
Certo. All right, moving on. Next, this comes from Martix. It's at Martix97. Pablo Nedved is the only player in history of football to have experienced 2 scandals in the same club, both as a player and a manager.
Ouch. This is true.
Strong.
Yes. Yes.
Juventus heading back to Serie B like the Ultimate Warrior coming down to rescue Hogan.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
That was from our friend _Nerazzurri. Big show coming through again.
Big show is the man.
Calciopoli 2. The Goodfellas. Some hooker and Nedved.
That is amazing.
Oh my god. It's 2 minutes long. I'm gonna watch it all, but it's great.
And let's see what the other names are here.
I gave Jimmy the tip, and he gave me some Christmas money. Over to the guys who stole.
You gotta watch this. The whole thing is 2 minutes of pure gold.
That is hilarious.
That's the leader of the clubhouse right there.
Yeah, easy leader in the clubhouse. Okay, at AC Matt 93. This is the guy who thinks I don't know anything about football. But he did put in a pretty good entry here. Juventus fans riding their bike, committing financial fraud, putting the stick in the wheel. Fucking city, huh?
Nice.
That is solid.
This is what Gravina's wife posted here. Juve Canale posted this again. It's Ibarra Francesca, the wife of Gabriele Gravina, the president of FIG, posted this on Instagram. There you go. And it's
hey, I mean, to be fair to her, she's stating fact. Like, she probably thought it's very important for me as the wife of the.
In case you missed it,
in case you missed it, this is the official ruling. I see nothing wrong.
She's trying to share it with her social media accounts. I think that's very
responsible.
Noble.
Yes. Okay. So at Simo Tarantino, calma.
Pelo di Lautaro è scivolato il difensore.
The creativity of that, it gets a lot of points for me. Calma. Calm down.
All right, we like that one.
All right, next one here is Juventus when they find the person responsible for all their troubles.
Oh, I saw this one. That is fantastic.
A new definition of infighting.
I feel like they could have also used Tyler Durden in Fight Club. That would have made me laugh even more if it was just what's his name, just punching himself in the face. That could have worked.
It could have.
Our friend George at Jersey SoCal, who's been in the chat today. I heard that the Juve fan shop is having a 15% off sale. Giuseppe Barzali.
15 points off.
I missed that one. I don't know. I can't find that. I don't see that one. But hey, okay, good for George. Good for George. Moving on, I'm going to go with Kilpin with the next one. Seen a lot of tweets about Serie A dying in light of recent events, but then you have a mid-table team giving Atalanta such a good game, and honestly, the league looks pretty strong to me.
Let's see. Gillis15 underscore. With the Juventus School of Accounting.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Oh, that's good.
Burning the books.
Burning the books.
Cooking the books.
Yeah.
Burning.
This is, you can't write this stuff up here. And Sansoni says you can't write this up. Brighton Bible says Brighton have a bid for $25 million for Nicola Zaniolo. But look at the picture. That's not Nicola Zaniolo.
Oh,
that's Patrick Schick.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
That is hilarious.
Whoops.
Whoops.
Okay, Vialismo, minus 27 Del Napoli.
Allegri celebrating.
I love it.
Oh, okay. Where are we at now? Okay, Luigi ASR. It's Mourinho con i giocatori della Roma. Return value. Oh, that's good.
All right. Let's see. So now moving on. Stinker Jenny. Zaniolo rumors getting stronger. He's not on board. He's not on board. He's not on board with Zaniolo to Milan, I guess.
I just want to die. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Breaking news. This comes from Fino Alfine 282. Inter will appeal the result of the Epula game to the FIGC. Zhang believes his side should be awarded 3 points because they showed up to the field and they comply with the financial regulations.
I'll take it. I'll take the 3 points.
Oh, that's good.
All right, and finally we have two more. Okay, so second last one. Ligulia is in for the first time, and it is Jose Soniera Maldini.
So you want to go to a real party?
What Maldini dreams about tonight. Oh, in reference to that Titanic, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's traumatizing. And then the last one, Henry Bell, at Henry Bell Calcio. So the original tweet was Napoli Club Nigeria says Mario Uri and all his charm. And so he says he really looks like he could be in a 1970s movie about a Vietnam vets returning home, which makes us all question if the government and the state is really looking after us.
Oh, gosh.
Wow. That is the most incredibly specific description I've ever seen. Points for that.
Yes, absolutely.
This was last week was a meh week for Who Won Calcio Twitter. This was a strong week.
Yeah,
it has to be said. On Alex's last day with us, you guys came through. Thank you very much.
You guys.
So, Alex, we'll give you the honor of picking the winner.
Man, I gotta go with my guy Big Show with the Goodfellas scene.
I think so. That was very well played.
Yeah, I think that a close second is going to be the "I Just Want to Die" video.
There were so many
Daniela
good
rumors
ones.
getting stronger.
There were so many good ones. The Titanic one just traumatized me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But the Big Show, I mean, the Goodfellas. How do you not?
Oh,
go
that
with
was
Goodfellas?
brilliant.
Oh my god. I don't want to get copyright strikes, so I'll just play the video without the music. But
Dude, Big Show has been trolling before some of you guys were even born. Like he has been. I remember the first time I became aware of this Big Show on Twitter. He used to troll Napoli like 6-7 years ago when like pictures came out of Napoli's Christmas party and it looked really depressing, and so he would post like depressing party gifts from and I'm just a big fan of that dude.
All right, and Stinker Jenna is the runner up, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, love that. All right. Well, Frank is tweeting that out. Alex, this is your last full-time day with us. Let people know where they can follow you, what you're going to be up to here going forward.
Well, first of all, I want to, because in case anyone wasn't listening to or watching the first few minutes of the episode, I want to reiterate again, huge thank you to Frank and Richard. And I'm also going to send a thank you to Jerry Mancini as well, who has been a Calcio podcasting partner of mine since 2020. We started a little bit before the pandemic started. I consider all of you guys to be like family, and I've enjoyed so much talking Calcio with you guys. The reason why I'm taking a step back is I've got so many responsibilities right now covering American sports that I don't feel like I can give Serie A coverage the time that it deserves and the time I deserve to give it to produce content every week. So I'm going to be taking a step back from it. And I want to thank everyone, and I'm still going to be, tweeting some nonsense during Inter games and stuff like that. So keep following me on Twitter at Alex Dono. And yeah, if you want to watch the work that I do covering American football, you can check it out. Locked on Canes, and I do writing for Sports Illustrated on the All Hurricanes page. And again, huge thank you, Frank and Richard. I'm sorry I couldn't devote more time and be with you guys for longer than I did, but I appreciate you guys so much, and thank you for the opportunities.
We enjoyed having you for the short time you were with us. So. And that doesn't mean you can't be a guest. As you said, you can't be a guest at some point. We want to talk a little Inter. We can have you on board. But no, some pretty good ventures you're getting into there, and we're happy for you. So
thank you.
If you want to write for our website, you're more than welcome to.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout as well. If I want to write a few venting words, I will take that under consideration.
Please do. Yes, so. And with all that, we're putting a bow on this edition of Serie A Sitdown. Richard is at R_KHARMAN. Alex is at Alex Dono, as you see there. I'm at FTC_21. Serie A Sitdown, we have our own channel on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever there's podcasts. There is Serie A Sitdown. If you are watching us here on the YouTube channel for the first time, please subscribe and please drop a like and hit that notification bell. This way you will know when we go live on future broadcasts, or if we even do video drops, which we've been known to do here from time to time. So at Serie A Sitdown on Twitter or Instagram for the social media part of it. A little bit of Facebook, not a whole lot of times. We're not spending a whole lot of time there, but if you put something on our Facebook page, we might respond. So, but chances are you're going to get a better response from us if it's Twitter or Instagram. And that is about it. Website update, Richard. We're getting close to a launch, or where are we at?
Yes. Probably be this weekend.
Okay. So that you'll have to look forward to, and we will release that out on the out in the social media airwaves when that is ready to go. And I'm looking forward to ranting a few blog entries as well. So, and then Dino coming in saying Milan should drop Tatarusanu and play new goalkeeper Vasquez, change formation to 4-3-3. I think we agree on that. So, all right. So that is it for Alex, for Richard. I'm Frank. Thank you all for listening. Everybody in the chat, thank you for being a part of this. Certainly appreciate all of the input and all of the takes. And we will catch up with you next time. And until then, tell your paisans about us. Ciao.